Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Idiots in the Wild. First up we have Limo Driver Steals Handicap Spot by Secure Corner 2096. I am disabled and use crutches for short distances and a wheelchair for long ones. I just read a Reddit post about a driver stealing several handicap stalls at once and it triggered a memory. One snowy winter day, I headed off to the library for my weekly book haul. The library had several handicap parking spots out front, but only one ramp. As I pull up, I notice a stretch limo, no placard, parked in a handicap spot. It was also parked directly on top of the only wheelchair ramp. I was furious. It had snowed that day, and it was already going to be a struggle just getting into the library. Now I would have to roll down the street, dodging cars until I got to the closest ramp, 1 block over. I briefly considered cancelling the library and putting off my book fix. But I'm one determined human being, and I decided this was a mountain I was prepared to die on. Standing, I'm a little over 5 feet, but seated in my chair, I'm the height of a small child. Because of this, cars don't always see me in my wheelchair when I have to share the road with them. Consequently, I've been hit by cars twice, because someone was too lazy to walk a few extra feet to a store door, or wanted to build their ego by stealing a handicap spot. Rolling a wheelchair through deep snow and ice is absolutely hell. The wheelchair wheels get clogged with snow or ice and lose traction. That means triple the effort is required to get through. You can protect your hands with gloves, but as soon as your gloves get wet, they slide on the metal rail and won't grip. So you need to go barehanded to keep rolling. In extreme cold, your wet hands freeze to the metal rail, and each time you remove them to keep propelling your chair, you rip off a thin layer of frozen skin. The snow, ice, dirt, and road salt transfer to your hands as you move. You get small cuts on your hands from the sharp snow, ice, and debris. The salt gets in the open cuts and makes them sting. That's why that's a saying. By the time you get to your goal, your hands are frozen, dirty, bloody, and in agony. Because of this lazy limo driver, I would have to roll hundreds of feet through deep snow while dodging cars, rather than the few dozen safe feet to the library that access to the ramp would provide. By the time I'd parked my car and gotten into my wheelchair, I was red-hot furious. The snow was about 8 inches high, but I was so mad I was practically flying through it to get to the limo driver's side window. When I got there, the driver and I locked eyes. He suddenly noticed something particularly spellbinding on the doormat. I realized his plan was to ignore me. I lost my fragile grip on my temper and completely lost my shit. I grabbed my reacher and began repeatedly whacking his window with all my might while screaming at him to move his fucking limo. I continued until enough rage was spent that rational thinking was impossible. He continued to pretend I didn't exist. I mean, if you don't exist, that would be the perfect opportunity to slash his tires. Not that I'm encouraging it, I'm just pointing out that would be a good opportunity. Since you don't exist at that point, I mean, how could they blame you for it? I yelled that I was getting his license plate and giving him an expensive ticket for Christmas. Oh, that's so nice of you. As I started heading towards the back of his limo, he quickly reversed and floored the gas to back out. Because it was a stretch limo, the front end swung dangerously close to me before he exited the stall and sped off. I was too angry to be scared, and serenaded his departure with a few more choice words and gestures. Something like, "Good show! Thank you for leaving." There were numerous other parking spots, as the miserable day had made most people stay home, so he parked in a handicapped stall and on the ramp deliberately. I hope my reaction cured him of the urge to ever steal the handicapped stall again. Clearly he wasn't even waiting for anyone if he just fucked off. Edit. I wanted to respond to a few of the comments. In my wheelchair, I don't have quick access to my phone. It was in my backpack on the back of my wheelchair. Taking a picture would have involved me putting both brakes on, wrestling off my backpack, getting my phone, replacing my backpack, and then getting behind the car long enough to snap a picture. After a particularly dangerous adventure with a mentally ill gentleman, I no longer risk getting directly behind cars with drivers. This event happened first, but given what happened, I'm glad I didn't risk it. I wish I had thought to take a picture while in my car or honk. But once I saw that limo, all I could think of was confronting the person who would do something that mean and lazy. A phone call to the library might not have helped, because the library was in our town's 2-tiered city hall, and the passenger could have been anywhere. I made this post to entertain readers and perhaps educate able-bodied individuals from the perspective of a disabled wheelchair user. Also just want to add, even if they'd been there, driving someone who might be disabled, there's still such a thing as common courtesy, and a car that size just cannot be using regular spaces. Plus, they're obviously the driver. The person could have called them when it was time to pick them up, because they can obviously afford a fucking limo. Although I do wonder, is there such a thing as like a camera for wheelchairs? I suppose a GoPro would be the obvious thing to do there, but you'd want something more subtle than that. Worth looking into, maybe. Just, to kind of protect yourself from buttheads when you're out and about. Alright. Story number 2. Am I the asshole? Roommate got her card stolen the week I told her me and boyfriend are moving on our own. Spoilers, no they're not. By Dangerous Total 574. For context, I'm 22, female, and she is also 22 and female. We met a year ago when she moved to town from a nearby state, and started working at the same place as me. I had also just met my boyfriend before meeting her. Side note, she had literally always hated my boyfriend and caused issues in our relationship because of this dislike. I asked her to move in when she had mentioned she had been living out of a hotel and was spending close to $2,000 a month just to stay somewhere. I had a spare bedroom and had just moved to this town a year prior for school, and had always intended to find a roommate eventually, hence why I had a 2-bedroom with just me at first. I've always heard roommate horror stories, so I was reluctant to ask her to move in, but it was highly ideal for my financial situation, so I befriended her for a month and a half and invited her over for sleepovers, and she seemed like a decent enough person. She had 2 jobs and worked very hard, was very kind, and we just had a lot in common, so I was kinda excited for the situation. She didn't have a car or license, though, which made it complicated. Because we work at the same place, it felt like no issue to take her when we were scheduled on the same day. Fast forward, I ask her to move in. First month I give her for free, just so she can get on her feet and buy herself a bed first. Cool, things are awesome. Rent time comes around, and again, cool, I receive it, no issues. Then she slowly starts sleeping through her alarms for her early morning job, so much to which I'm pretty positive she was fired, or just decided she didn't need that job anymore. She still got me rent, so okay, it's not my business, I don't care. Then probably month 3, she starts mentioning her phone bill was $500 this month, bitch, who are you talking to? And how she has to overdraft her account to get rent, but that I will get what I need. Concerning, but as long as I get my rent money. That comment then becomes just the trend of every month. Her phone bill is always over $400, and she has to overdraft her account, but she still manages to get me the money. Mind you, she does it the very last day before we're charged late fees every month. Over the year of us living together, she always paid rent, so we had no real issues. I didn't go in her room and didn't leave her messes she had to deal with, and neither did she. Well, the matter of how disgusting she really is behind closed doors is one thing. I'm talking dirty tampons just chilling on the floor. But as of recently, me and my boyfriend have decided we were getting serious, and that at the end of the lease we wanted to move out just me and him. So I had planned that conversation out and made sure that I had given her enough notice to move on her own in time. Our lease ends in October, and I told her at the beginning of August. The conversation went okay. Obviously she wasn't happy, and I cried out of panic and being on my period, but it went really well, as it could have. She just asked why I was so worried to tell her, and I mentioned that I was worried she would think that it wasn't enough notice. 60 days sounds like a lot. Because technically me and my boyfriend are moving middle of September. Fast forward later that week. I tell her the first I need rent money, as always, and to let me know a good time to take her to Walmart to get the money out, since she banks with their bank inside. She knows when rent is due and that late fees are applied the 4th. She says, okay, bet. She doesn't get back to me about anything that day or night. The next day comes and I remind her that I need rent money again, but that this time she was going to have to get it herself, since I worked doubles the whole weekend, and was barely going to have enough time to go to Walmart myself and get a money order for rent. She says okay, since she doesn't work till 4 that day. She doesn't get back to me about anything, but does tell me that she's going out with a friend that night. Good for her. Okay. Well, later that night she went out and claims she left her purse in the car, and only brought her card so she wouldn't lose anything important. And someone stole her card. Oh, well, that's fine. She can just go to her bank and take money out from the bank. Make sure she takes ID with her. The next day, I ask her for rent, and she says she can't find her card. I had to help her retrace her steps, but to no avail. She goes to Walmart the morning after, and they tell her there was a transaction for some Mexican food she didn't make on it, and that they're going to report the funds as fraudulent, and that she would need a new card, and she would get it in 3 to 5 business days. Established. I'm not getting rent on time. I tell her to just keep me updated and that I'll be checking the mail for her since she doesn't have a mailbox key. I also tell her that money I used to cover the rent was my moving money and school book money for the upcoming college semester that starts in 2 weeks, and urged her to get the money to me as soon as she had it. That was the end of the conversation for a week. I checked the mail every day and nothing came, so exactly a week after the incident, I asked her if she would call up her bank and make sure they had the right address, and reminded her of the timeline that I needed that rent money by. She dismissed me and pretended she was too busy with her phone call to one of her home girls. Well, if they have a home, she can fuck off and live there. I decided I was going to text her the next day to see if she had a plan and to address the situation, and her response was, "You texting me what to do as if I didn't call them at 10 this morning. I'm just as fucking stressed as you. I'm on my way to the bank, and my fucking friend just got off and is about to take me. Not only that, I've been on the ass, blah, 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 something about butt sex, what? Oh, not only that, I've been on the ass, love, just because I don't involve you in the business doesn't mean I ain't you gonna get yours. She's a woman of deep feelings, I see." This is also the second time I've brought it up since it all happened. This is all I said. Your card is still not here. Did you find any time to call your bank? And do you have any way of going to the bank to get it out in person? Yeah, she does, she's just choosing not to. Or a plan for if your card doesn't come within the week. I need that money for books for school that starts next week on Wednesday. Most of what you see in these messages is about all that's been said about the situation. She doesn't contribute to cleaning around the house. She has never contributed gas money, despite all the times I've taken her to Walmart or to work. Even just waited the hour for her to get off so she could have a ride, even though I had already been cut and done with side work. She leaves her room disgusting to where it smells like ass cheeks outside her bedroom door. Oh dear. I will give her that she cleans up after herself in the kitchen and will buy toilet paper if I ask her. You shouldn't have to, but that is the extent to her being a good roommate. Oh well, what I care about is that she owes me $500, is going to owe me another $500 at the end of the month, and I no longer trust this person to get it to me. It's amazing how you had a reasonably decent relationship until then, and they just happy to throw that all away. Her small way of vengeance, I suppose. I understand accidents happen. It sounds like a pattern at this point. I mean, forgetting it once, maybe, but it sounds like she just doesn't give a fuck. I'm very cursy this video, aren't I? Maybe the last couple of videos. This is a recording session. I'm doing 3 today. And people are going to be bad people and steal things, but if she would have gotten me the rent on time when I asked, we wouldn't be in this situation. She also keeps alluding that she has the money but can't access it without a card, to which I don't believe anymore. She also posted to her story shortly after these messages that she hates... I'm going to say people, but I don't think that's the word she used, that tell her what to do. I believe her card was stolen, but the timing is absolutely suspicious, and the reaction is even more concerning. I just can't wait to move with my nice, normal boyfriend. Whew. Well, I think possibly, yeah, the card was legitimately stolen. These things can happen. But her reaction to it shows a complete lack of care. As you say, you'll be out of it soon. If it comes to it, there might be a civil case in both your futures to get that money. Hopefully she's just being a petty person, and she will eventually make good and get you that money. But all I know is when there was an issue with my bank account and I wasn't able to use my card, I went to the bank to talk to them about it. They asked me if I was okay right now and if they wanted to take any money out. Bear in mind, I couldn't use my card at that point, but I did have ID and such to prove that it was indeed my account. So there's ways and means. You just have to verify that you are who you say you are. She's choosing not to do that. Now, maybe it's different with Walmart banking, I don't know, but I know that, here in the UK with the Royal Bank of Scotland, they're pretty accommodating with that sort of thing. Anyway. Story number 3. Woman ran over my foot with her suitcase when I physically could not move over on crowded train. By Fragrant Dingo. 21. This was a few months ago on a trip to Italy with my boyfriend. We were in Rome and taking the metro. The train was packed. I was standing up in the centre and he was in another car. We got separated on the platform. We reached Termini and there was a huge crowd of tourists with large suitcases waiting. One woman with a massive suitcase, there was a large bag on top of it too, yells for her husband and kid to hurry up, both also with large suitcases. They shove their way in and people try to make room for them, but again it's packed, so it's a tight squeeze. I get it, I've been on public transport before with large bags, it's awkward. You try not to take up too much space, but it's kinda unavoidable. It's not a great situation, especially on a crowded train. However, this lady walked right up to me and pushed her suitcase lightly into me and made a shoe gesture, clearly wanting more space. While the request was done rudely, I would have moved over more if I could, but I clearly could not move further without pushing into the man beside me, so I told her, sorry, I cannot move more. She huffs and then slams her suitcase into my leg, so I'm like, ow. And she looks at me and literally goes, whoops, with a little smirk. This woman is middle-aged, at least, and acting like a teenager. This man I would have been way too close to if I had moved gives her a look. Moves over as much as he can. Again, the car is crowded. And then tells me that I can move a bit more if I would like. I go to shift over, but my foot is pinned. This woman has rolled her suitcase onto my foot. It was just on there. Not really on my foot, but more the tip of the shoe. That's the best part sometimes, where my toes don't quite reach. That's where the wiggle room is. She stole your wiggle room. I'm a big fan of wiggling toes. I mean, no, ask anybody. So internally I was like, okay, that must have been an accident. Nope, I wrench my foot out relatively easily and shift slightly over. She then, since we had stopped at this point, looks down and slides her suitcase over onto my foot. Oh, no. I'm a little louder when I say, ow, 'cause it hurt a lot. And then I tell her, your suitcase is on my foot, can you please move it? In English, 'cause I heard her speak it to her husband when getting on. She ignores me and rolls her eyes. I say it again louder and gesture toward it, because people are now looking at us. I'm trying to get my foot out, but it's too heavy for me to wrench my foot out. She's also leaning on it. She gives me a dirty look, like looked me up and down, and then yanks it off. The man who was nice enough to move the first time moves again, and a younger woman moves further down the car and gestures at me to take her spot near one of the doors. The next stop, the woman got off, glaring at me. Yeah, 'cause you made her lose her suitcase rest. I heard an older woman call her a very creative name in Italian as she left. The same woman then asked me if I was okay and needed to sit down. I walked with a bit of a limp for the last 2 days of the trip, and I had to cut my day short. Missed out on some museums and churches, 'cause my foot was quite sore. I cannot fathom what would possess a person to do that, let alone think that they're in the right to behave like that. While I am writing this post about the entitled woman, the guy who moved, the younger woman who gave me her spot, and the woman who asked if I was okay were lovely. So I gotta give them props for being kind to a stranger when they didn't have to be. Okay, story number 4. The entitlement of some people is insane. No, we're not entitled to the free sheet music of other living composers. By Ed Casso. I'm a composer, and I make a modest living as a musician. I recently had this very unpleasant conversation with someone who honestly believes he is entitled to my free copyrighted sheet music. Now, I understand as a musician and pianist myself, sheet music can be costly. But there is so much sheet music available in the public domain, and I always try to do regular giveaways as a courtesy, considering, yes, some people can't always afford sheet music. And heck, even when some people ask nicely, and I discern they genuinely can't afford it, I'm happy to share. But do living composers really need to provide sheet music completely for free all the time? We also need to make a living. It's hard enough as it is in the crazy landscape, and now we're even getting our music trained on and plagiarized by AI, and on top of that, buried under all the AI slop invading the internet. We put in so much work and time and passion into our craft, and people just expect that they have the right to take everything we do for free. As musicians and as pianists, I really think we can do better. Even as broke as I am more than happy to purchase and buy other living composers' sheet music, especially if they are smaller musicians. I understand there are many pianists, even here, that can't afford sheet music all the time, and I empathize. But I really don't think that gives us a right, speaking as a pianist now and not a composer, to expect other living composers to work completely for free, and in this specific scenario to even redistribute said composer's sheet music. Am I wrong? Is that too much to ask? Please enlighten me, because sometimes I feel crazy. Anyway, rant over. Because it's so frustrating at times. Oh, you're absolutely right, because as you say, there's plenty of public domain stuff out there. And even I'm aware we're getting into slightly dicier territory here. If it's more up-to-date songs that people are wanting the sheet music for, you'll probably find there's somebody out there who's transposed them by ear. Like I say, that's a little bit more dicey territory because you're not actually stealing somebody's original sheet music there. It's someone who's created their interpretation of a song, and that's often put out there for free. There's really no excuse for it, quite frankly, is what I'm saying. And the 5th and final story for this video is anonymous. I was serving this couple, middle-aged man and woman. They were nice. Woman didn't talk much, but I still made an effort to speak to her as well. The guy was undecided on drinks, so I went through a list of favorites until we got to one he liked. They were happy overall. Due to a few dirty looks in the past, I started putting checks in the middle for couples to, I guess, remove any stigma because people are too sensitive nowadays. They had a bunch of their bags and shit on the table, who knows the fuck why, but I found a comfy spot for the check. They said thank you and I walked away. I picked up their card, paid the tab, and put it back in that spot. I didn't see whose card it was. I didn't notice any expressions from them, but then again, it was busy, so I gave them my closing speech and that was it. After like 5 minutes of them still sitting there, I noticed the guy had flagged down one of my fellow servers. I thought I must have made a mistake on the check, so I pulled up my tablet to check their tab, and everything checked out. He then proceeds to hand my other server a $20 bill, and I was just so confused. Again, since they didn't have one complaint, I just assumed they told her to give it to me because they saw I was running food and probably didn't want to leave it to get taken. Here's where it gets messed up. I see my fellow server waiting for me to finish taking another order so she can talk to me, the server they gave the tip to. I make a pit stop on my way to her to grab their signed receipt and to wipe their table down as we were on a wait. She tells me they called her down to tell her that they have never been so disrespected while being served, and decided they would give her the tip instead. Probably they thought this was a power move or something. My jaw was on the floor. I was pissed. I looked down and I noticed they wrote a whole freaking book on the back of the signed receipt. "There is 2 of us at this table, not 1. Everything went well until it was time to pay. I put the card on the table, and you brought it back and put it towards my wife. I was the one paying and tipping. This is demeaning and discrimination. You acted as though there was 1 person at the table." Usually I would get upset, but I genuinely didn't know what else to do but laugh, because I've never seen someone so freaking insecure in my life. Grown adults who never learned any emotional regulation in their lives, and go around projecting, are honestly embarrassing. I showed it to my manager and he was mad. He wished the guy said something instead of writing it on the receipt like a kitty, so he could say something to him. My manager saw his name, just in case he left a bad review, so they knew to call it out. We have cameras if he wanted to play that game. He never left a review, but I guess he's like a judge. I guess that really shows who handles the justice system. Terrible. I was fully prepared to open up a defamation suit if he wanted to lie on me using my name. Little does he know, my uncle's a judge too. A bigger one at that. Well, people suck, and I hope he has the life he deserves. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page. There's a link to that in the description. $1 or more a month, whatever you're comfortable with, gets you early access to the videos once on Monday. There's also a link to my merchandise store over on Teespring, as well as my Discord server, my Threads account, and my email is kingofthecities@gmail.com if you need to contact me. That's everything for now, so until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.